So the Kriss Vector here, it's not just a very cool looking gun, but it actually employs their patented Super V system, which I'm going to go over in great detail here in a second. But for now, I will just tell you that it really is a marvel of firearm engineering. And it is very cool and very unique to Kriss. As I said, it is their patented system. And you know, to summarize what it is instead of the guide rod and spring going back and forth like a normal firearm, this one actually goes up and down, which helps to prevent muzzle rise and really gives it just no recoil at all. So it doesn't just look cool, but it is really fun to shoot. Okay, so just like with any firearm, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the mag and we're going to check the chamber to ensure that everything is clear and safe to proceed. On the Vector, your mag release button is going to be right here on the left side of the frame. Simply push it to drop the mag, and it runs on your classic double stack Glock mag, which is kind of neat. Probably already have a few of those laying around. And then from there, we're going to check the chamber, which is sort of weird in that the charging handle on the Vector is over here on the left side. It does take a little bit of getting used to if you're kind of used to just your standard AR where it's on the other side, but you get used to this pretty quickly. And you simply pull back, look inside, and yep, we're all clear and good to go. Now, another cool thing about the Vector is you really don't need any specific tools to take it apart. You really just need your hands. Because the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pull out these pins here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just sort of set it down on your mat there. I would start with the top two because that's what's primarily going to be holding the upper onto the lower. And then you just, you know, use one hand to push it out the other side and use your other hand to pull it free. And then third one down here, and then our fourth one here. From here, you can pull out the slider and the bolt, set those to the side, and then just simply pull the upper off of the lower. Voila, there we are. That took all of 20 seconds, and we are already disassembled and ready to clean. And that is also fairly easy. As you can see, the bolt here, the barrel here is really not very long at all. You do have a kind of a lot going on there, I should say. A lot of little nooks and crannies in there that we want to be sure to get. But it's really not as complicated as it seems. And the upper here, that's really not going to be very dirty at all. We are going to take a little bit of cleaner and get in there next to the hammer and all those springs and pins back there. But let's start with the barrel. So today I am using my new Otis breech to muzzle cleaning kit, and we're going to start with the brush. We're going to take the cable there, and I would just sort of feed it through the barrel, just like so. Pull, and then we're just going to yank it out the front here. Whoop. There's one, and I would go around and I would just do that maybe another time or two. We did run quite a few rounds through it, so it's probably good and dirty. And I want to be sure and, you know, give it a nice thorough cleaning job before I give it back to Marshall. So just take it, pull it on through. All right, nice. Okay, that's already looking pretty good. And then let's see, from there, let's stick with the barrel. Let's take off the brush now. And then let's get a cleaning cloth here. And let's just stick it onto one of these little eyelets, one of these little cloth holders. And then just feed her on through. Connect it to the cable. And then let's put a little bit of cleaning solvent on there. You don't want to do too much. You don't want the bore all gross, but I do want to make sure we get most of that goop out of there. And so I'm just going to put a few drops on that, and then just like with the brush, just going to feed it on through the barrel. Oh yeah, see how dirty that got? Yeah, so we're just going to do that a few times until we feel like it's really kind of clean. Sorry about that. All right, cool. Cool. All right, that works for me. Now we're just going to take a little bit more of that cleaning solvent, and I'm actually just going to put it right onto the brush, which isn't what I normally do. But the Vector here, you know, it's kind of hard to dig in to that small space. So I'm just going to sort of get around where the barrel begins right there. It looks pretty gross. Sort of dig in there with the brush and break up all that old burn up powder and carbon in there. You could take the skinnier end of the brush there and get into those really small nooks and crannies. But basically, you know, you just kind of want to scrub around until you see most of that goop coming up and you feel like it's really getting clean. And we'll know here in a second when we use one of the white cloths. But you definitely want to give some attention to the rails. Rails right in there where the bolt and the slider have a lot of action going. Pretty much anywhere where you're going to see metal on metal contact. Oh, nice. And now I'm going to take that same brush with a cleaning cloth. Now I'm just going to soak up a lot of what I just broke up and hopefully get into those small spaces. Okay. And that should do it for the upper. So we're just going to set that off to the side for a second and focus on the, I'm sorry, that should do it for the lower. And now we're going to focus on the upper here, which really shouldn't require too much work. I'm just going to take another cleaning cloth and sort of get around the hammer here. It can get pretty dirty. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and use some cleaning solvent to get down in there. Sort of around the pin and certainly where you see all that burnt up carbon kind of laying in the bottom there. So take that same brush and a cleaning cloth and just sort of move it around until I feel like I'm getting up all the gunk. In fact, if at some point you feel like a Q-tip would help you, then go for it. Of course, you want to be careful not to leave little cotton strands hanging in there, though that really shouldn't hurt anything. But go ahead and use the Q-tip to sort of get in the back of some of those little nooks and crannies back there. Okay, and now we'll turn our attention to the slider and the bolt. These really aren't going to be, or at least the slider's not going to be very dirty. What I would really just do is take a cleaning cloth, you know, put a little bit of solvent on there, and then use it to clean around the spring and around the base. But otherwise, the slider itself doesn't really get too filthy. All right. The bolt, you know, it doesn't really require any kind of disassembly. I would take a Q-tip and put a little bit of solvent on there and get underneath the extractor. Otherwise, just for a basic field cleaning, you really don't need to try to do more to the bolt. You do want to kind of be careful not to get too much solvent in the striker channel there, but you do need to kind of clean up around it. All right, and I said that I would go into more detail about what is the Super V system that Kriss Vector is famous for. It's really this configuration of the slider and the bolt. Whereas, you know, on most firearms, the guide rod and spring and the bolt are all going in the same direction. What Kriss does here is it's going to reinsert into the gun, into the frame in such a way that the recoil spring and rod are going to be going up and down instead of back and forth with the bolt. And it's that transfer of energy that is what really is the Super V system and causes really no muzzle rise whatsoever and makes it a real joy to shoot. And now you can see how the bolt here will be going back and forth, but the actual guide rod and spring are going to be going up and down, which then kind of pulls the gun back down and doesn't cause any muzzle rise at all. Very, very cool stuff. And actually, that's exactly how you would begin the reassembly process, which we'll do now that everything is nice and clean. Actually, before we do that, sorry, let's lube up a little bit. Get some lube on a Q-tip there, and you know, sort of get the rails inside of the lower. You know, put a little bit of, I think I already kind of lubed up the hammer and pin assembly back here, but a little more couldn't hurt. All right. I would also kind of put a little bit of lube on the rails of the slider here, where the bolt is going to be going back and forth. Just smooth out that process. And maybe also a little bit around the tabs of the bolt. All right. Maybe where the charging handle comes back and forth. Okay, cool. Okay, and now that everything's clean, we can start reassembly. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your lower here. And I think I said it a second ago, but the way I remember the bolt going on the slider is that you're going to take the part where you can see the caliber stamped on the back there, and you want to make sure that it is facing the same direction as the spring here, towards the stock. And so you're gonna find corresponding rails here in the lower. You're gonna go ahead and put the bolt in its rails first. And then you're gonna take this part of the slider and make sure it's in its rails, right, directly in front of the bolt's rails. And then you're just gonna let it drop like that. You also, you definitely wanna make sure that you put the slider and the bolt back into the lower before you reconnect the lower and the upper. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work out. But, you know, as you can see, there's the bolt. Everything seems to be good there. Now we're going to take our pin, which I'm going to lube up a little bit. I'm just going to put a little on my glove there. Put a little bit of lube on each one of the pins to make them a little easier to get in and out of there. All right, so we're going to, you want to start with this pin here, the one that really holds the slider assembly and bolt into the lower. You don't want to reinsert this pin yet because it needs to be connected to the upper before it goes in. So you do want to make sure that your hammer is back, as if you were about to squeeze the trigger, hadn't squeezed it yet. You're going to put the hammer back, then you're going to put the upper onto the lower like so. And then go ahead and reattach the upper and lower through the slider assembly there. Go ahead and reinsert the two pins on the top there. All right, and there we are, reassembled. Last but not least, we're going to do a function check. So just get your magazine, reinsert into the mag well there. Go ahead and hold that back. Go ahead and drop that bolt because of course it's gonna lock back on an empty mag. And now see if she fires. Yep. All right, that was the Kriss Vector, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that video. For more videos, please check my YouTube channel here periodically. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and follow me. And you can always follow me on Instagram as well at Finesse Firearms Training. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.